Hello and welcome to the first ever Psychic in the City podcast. I am Sean McGill, also known as Psychic in the City. I am a psychic medium, I am a tarot reader and author of the best-selling book Tarot for Modern Times, and I'm super excited to be able to bring this to you. So each week we will be looking at different topics that is anything to do with spiritualism, mediumship, psychic work, tarot, healing, angels, mindset, past lives, you name it, I'll be bringing it all to you. So if you do have any questions or any topics that you would like, do feel free to leave a comment or hit me up, and I will most certainly bring those questions and give a bit of a deeper understanding on whatever it is. On top of that, I'll also have guests that will be coming on that are experts in their field, that are the very best at whatever it is that they're doing. So we will be having guests on chatting about a wide range of different things. And as this is the first Psychic in the City podcast, I figured, why not talk about myself? For those out there that know me, know that that's something very, very difficult and something that I normally don't do. As you can tell, I can't even say that one with a straight face. Now, what I do really want to speak about is the role or the job of a medium, as this is something that I get asked very, very frequently, and I do feel that this would be something that would be very beneficial for you to understand in order to help you get the best from your one-to-one. Now, I've been working as a medium for 10 years, just shy of 10 years, and the most commonly asked question I get is, what type of reading is better? Because as a medium, I do work with the psychic faculties. So I'm able to provide either a psychic reading or a mediumship reading. And they are in fact two very, very different things, because all mediums are psychic, but not all psychics are mediums. So a psychic reading is a reading that is based on you and your life. What's going on with you, what has went on with you, and can show you a potential outcome over the next wee while. And a mediumship reading is where a medium has developed their psychic ability so much that they're able to then rather move their energy to connect with their client sitting in front of them, to connect with that spirit person. So there is that sort of, everybody is psychic, yes, but mediums are born. Yes, we do need to develop and we do need to train, but I will talk about that at another point. So I do see very, very regularly in my business where I have clients that would come and they don't know what type of reading to book, because on my website I do offer either a tarot reading or a mediumship reading, because they are two vastly different things. And people seem to misunderstand or maybe not have a very good understanding of what happens during each of these sessions. So the role of a medium in a mediumistic setting is to provide evidence that your loved ones are there with you. Now, evidence is a very, very big umbrella, and evidence should be something that you, as a recipient, can understand. So evidence is based on the spirit person, on your loved one that comes forward, and that can be things like names, physical descriptions, personalities, how they passed, and it really depends on the medium what type of evidence that they get. I know some mediums that I work with that are absolutely phenomenal at getting names. Names is something that just very rarely comes to me in my work, but then there is a lot of portion of my work where I can get dates, and I don't mean just months. I can get usually in and around to the date of the month. And then these mediums that I know, that I work with, maybe can't get that type of evidence. So there's not normally a one size fits all in the terms of what type of evidence you're going to be getting from a different medium, as each medium's type of work, or style of working I should say, is unique to that individual. But at the end of the day, it is all evidential based. We need to prove that life is eternal, that the spirit is there communicating to you via your chosen medium. And it's great in going, okay, your granny or your granddad, they're telling me that you're gonna get a new job. That's great, that's what everybody wants to hear. I want to hear I'm getting a new job, I'm meeting somebody, or I'm going on holiday. But The thing with that is, that doesn't really prove that Granny is there communicating. That just means that, the person knows that Granny's there, maybe they're picking that up psychically from your aura. So the evidence that comes forward, it has to relate to that spirit communicator. And a lot of people, well, not a lot, but what has happened quite generally throughout my time working is I would get the odd person going, yeah, but I already know that about them. The client talking about the spirit person. And I'm going, well, yeah, that's what you're paying for. Like, if I'm to sit here and tell you that, oh, your granny has a bright green mohawk and she loved her Harley Davidson, unless that actually is your granny, you're going to say, no, that's not right. So there does need to be that amount of information coming forward that you can understand. Now, during a session as well, you do have to keep a very, very open mind about, first of all, who may come forward and what evidence you're actually getting. Because don't forget, as people, we're very complex. We're multifaceted. There is many, many different dimensions to us as individuals. And the same stands for spirit. Just because your mum, your dad, your granny, your granda, whatever it may be in spirit comes through, doesn't mean that you're going to know every single thing about them. And you may go home with what I call a little bit of homework or a little bit of research to do, that you'll have to ask certain family members, hey, I was told this in a reading, can you confirm that for me? But obviously that should be a small percentage of your reading, that shouldn't be the whole entire thing. Because us as mediums, we can't confirm the evidence. You need to confirm the evidence because it's your loved ones that are coming forward. Now, during a reading, we do want to build up that communicator. We want to build up that evidence as to who they are before we begin to move into any messages that they have to give. But understand that mediumship, it is not message-based. It is evidence-based. And a lot of the times the messages that can come through from spirit is, would you tell my daughter that, I know she's having a hard time and that I love her and she'll get through this? Or would you just tell my partner that I've made it to spirit okay and I'm sending them love? Not every single message is going to be what's going to happen next week, next month, or next year. That is definitely not the case when it comes to mediumship. Now, I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. I'm just saying that mediumship, in essence, is evidential based. And depending on where you actually are in the world, I know that there's mediums, I'm based in Ireland, and I know that there's mediums in England and America and Canada that I know that they generally don't give messages because that's kind of how they're trained, that they understand that mediumship is bridging that gap between this world and the next. So, the fact that a message may come through and it may be absolutely amazing, there may be loads and loads about it, or the message could be, I love you, doesn't make that any less effective than being told you're going to get a job or you're going to meet somebody. Because our spirit family want to let us know that they're okay and that they love us and that they're with us. Now, I do want to go back to a point that I made a little bit earlier about, as a client, having to keep an open mind about who may come through in the sitting. Now, 95% of the readings that I've done, there has always been that one person that my clients wanted, and successfully they have came through. But there is that 5% of the time where we may really want to hear from Granda, but Granny comes through. And what I always say to my clients is, well, if you were expecting your Granny to show up at your door, but your Granda did, would you close the door in his face? Definitely not. So why would you get on like that just because they're a spirit? Now, just because a spirit person may not come through at a reading, it has nothing to do with you as the recipient or that the spirit doesn't want to speak to you. Please forget that, delete that, don't even think that. There is intelligence in the spirit world. We're not just sitting floating about on a little cloud playing a harp. We have jobs to do. And we could be busy at that time. You know, we may not be ready in order to come through. Now, I know that a lot of people say that, oh, you have to wait 6 months on going to see a medium after someone's passed. I have literally stood and done a demonstration of mediumship on a Thursday, and I brought through a spirit person that their wake was still happening. So time is kind of irrelevant, and it just really depends on, you know, right time, right place, as the spirit person knows how much that the reading can affect you in either a positive or a negative in getting through your grief. So you got to understand that it doesn't mean that the medium has done a bad job because you didn't get who you wanted to hear from. You got to keep an open mind, as this is not a sort of shopping list where we go in to a shopping centre and we pick our cereal off the shelf. We don't do that with spirit. Now, we can endeavour and we can try and we can absolutely put the thought out there, but that makes no guarantee that they are going to come through. So always, always, always keep an open mind about going for your mediumship reading. As be open to, you know, anyone that you could know from any point in your life could come forward. It doesn't necessarily have to be that close relative. It could be a friend, it could be a neighbour, it could be someone that you know, and it could be a friend's parent, you know, someone that you know through that connection could come through because they've seen the opportunity to speak and to pass on their love to their loved ones. So we do very, very much have to keep an open mind in the understanding that mediumship has nothing to do with us as a person getting the reading. It has nothing to do with our lives. It is more so to do with, yes, our loved ones, they're there and they want to let us know that they are with us and to help us through our grieving process. Now, I will talk more about psychic readings at another point, but I think it's time to get a very interesting and fascinating guest. So it is my great pleasure to introduce an absolutely fascinating friend of mine. My first guest on the Psychic in the City podcast is Aoibhinn Murray. Aoibhinn, welcome to the Psychic in the City podcast.
Thank you very much, Shan. It's wonderful to be here, and thank you very much for inviting me.
Absolutely so excited to get chatting to you. Now, for those that don't know, I know Aoibhinn, and Aoibhinn and myself are very similar, and you name it, we've trained in it. So, so it is one of those things. I don't want to, you know, maybe miss something out that you do. So if I was to get you to summarise, say what your job title would be, or if we were going to fit what you do onto a business card, what would you say it is that you do, Aoibhinn?
I would title myself, the umbrella title would be holistic therapist. And underneath that, we would have energy practitioner, healer, medium, tarot card reader, and massage therapist. And I won't go any further than that. We'll be here all day.
Well, this is it exactly. So we've got a nice wee image of what your business card says anyway. Then you know, and I know that you're very much into spirit, you're into energy work, you're into healing. But what I really want to know is about your first experience that you had with a spirit.
Well, the first experience that I had with the spirit was only recently remembered through regression, funnily enough. And I knew that I had been having engagements with spirit for years and years and years, but I didn't know where it started. And it actually started at age 5. Now, at this stage in my career and in my evolution and work, I've come to realize that when you're working with light to the level that I work with it, you can draw both positive and not so positive energies towards yourself. And in the etheric realms, they can see that light. So you get a lot of people who maybe have not fully crossed over, who need help, and maybe some nefarious entities coming in to have a look as well, and everything else in between. But as a kid, I didn't know any of this. I just stuck my head under the covers and just knew that it all frightened me. Just go away. So it was much later on in life when I allowed it to blossom, I suppose. Yeah, through my shamanic path. Yeah, and my healing. Hmm.
That's so interesting. A lot of people that I do speak to, whether it be, for the likes of work or just generally, people that are very spiritually minded, all seem to have a certain experience with spirit from a very young age, maybe to a very different level to what we're working at now. But I just find it fascinating how many, well, I suppose non-spiritually minded people as well, if you were to ask them, they have always had some sort of experience. So it's been from quite young with yourself then.
Yes, it was. And, because, okay, we're living in a time now where it's becoming more acceptable to talk about this
Yeah.
area, and it's becoming more mainstream and respected, which is great. But back then, it was, I mean, I was brought up in the Catholic Church,
Hmm.
so it wasn't something you talked about. And it wasn't something I understood, to even put into words. I just knew that fear, I was frightened to go to bed. There was, and that's all I knew. And then I would see a lot of faces. And then as I kind of got older, the forms became bigger and richer and much more detailed. But I kind of closed it off a lot because I had no reference point for it. I didn't understand it.
Yeah.
And it was too way out there to even discuss until much later on. So a lot of people do have experiences when
Mhm.
they're a kid, but just don't know what to do with it. Yeah. Mm.
Exactly. And I think it's very, very important to begin to understand that, it's not just this 3D world that we live in. And as children or people that have children, children are very, very open and very, very sensitive to things that we don't perceive. And I think it's very important to hear things like your own story from being that young child and going like, this does happen. We do become aware of things, and because we don't have a frame of reference, it can be very scary or startling when it's maybe not necessarily a scary experience as well.
That's right. Yeah, it doesn't have to be scary. It's
Mhm.
and that's the thing. This is what I'm always saying to clients as well. Just because something's moving in your house, a picture is moving or something's fallen off the table, it doesn't mean that you've got a demon in your house. It doesn't mean that you have got a nefarious entity in your house. It could be the energy in the atmosphere of the house.
Mhm.
It could be the energy that's actually built into the bricks and mortar
Yeah.
that could be easily cleared out and cleansed out. Or it could be somebody who is trying to connect, but the
Mhm.
only way, like when we're in that form, we don't have the physical senses, and
Yeah.
we can't speak the way we can speak telepathically,
Mhm.
but we can't speak audibly. So the only thing we can learn to do is focus our energy to try and move something, just to let the other person know, I'm trying to connect with you. Maybe go to a medium or go,
Mhm.
follow the guidance I'm giving you here because I'm wanting to pass a message on to you. So it's, you know, 99.5% of the time, it's
Mhm.
nothing to be frightened
Yeah.
of. It's
Yeah.
just understanding it. That's
Mhm.
all.
Absolutely. It can be very, very many different things. Like you said, it can be the house, it can be, Granda trying to pass on a message, or it can even be your own energy. Like, my mom, she has a very, very strong energy, and that would cause knocks and rocks in the house. So, it's not necessarily spirit, and sometimes it's just your pipes cooling down from the heating being on earlier.
Yeah, you need to use kind of critical thinking with it as
Ab-
well, and not get too
Absolutely.
kind of lost in the story of it all.
I blame Hollywood for that, but we'll not get into that one. We really won't.
Well, I would too, but it's important to be neutral. And people think that those of us who work in this field are all full of woo woo, and
Mhm.
we think every little sound is spirit, and that's not the case. And the first thing you're going to look for is the practical
Mhm.
reason that something could be happening. But also you're going to be tuning in
Yeah.
energetically to see if there is something going on. So you can tell quite fast.
Yeah,
Um,
especially when you get those messages over Facebook, you kind of you feel it first and foremost, and you're like, "There's nothing to worry about there at
yeah,
all."
there's not, yeah, exactly,
Mhm.
exactly.
I
Yeah.
know. And speaking of tuning in and energy, I know that you're very, very, very much into your healing, and I absolutely love that. I've had a bit of healing from you. How exactly did you get into your energy healing? Because, like you said, you've done this, that, and the other. What was it that drawn you into the healing side?
Well, my sister was the pioneer really for it. She's 10 years older than me, and she was working in a government office in Dublin, and she had a very senior position, and she put her back out. And she was in and out of hospital and having different treatments for a very, very long time. Then she was out of work for a year with her back. And out of sheer desperation, she went to see a healer. And that was the first time she got relief from the back pain.
Wow.
So, yeah. So she began building up her reserves again and clearing all of that out. And she got up and running again. But then she realized, well, there's something to this. So she went down that path of healing. And because of my own, I had a very big awakening at the age of 21. And I was on a community development course. I was working for a community development group, and we had to spend 2 weeks down in Maynooth University doing a facilitator's course. And one night I woke up in the middle of the night, and all I felt was, I would describe it like being in cotton wool or being wrapped in foam. And I had never experienced this level of love. I had never experienced this intimate, the intimacy of it.
Yeah.
And it overwhelmed me. And the next morning I got up, had breakfast, and went into the workshop room. And I went outside and I sat down on a step, and I was looking around, and it was all woodland and birds. And it was like somebody had taken this big, thick filter off, and I was seeing it for the first time. Everything was magnified. The colors were brighter. The trees were a lot. I mean, we know they're alive, but I could see the energy of the trees, and I couldn't get over the colors. Everything had just been turned up like 100%, and I didn't know what to do with this. So I spoke to my sister about it, because she was already on the healing path, the healer's path, and she said, "Do you think it could have been an angel or a guide?" And I went, "Oh, I've never thought about that now." So I said, "Well, tell me a bit more about that." So I think it was herself who referred me to another healer who was also a medium. And so I had a consultation with her, and we did a meditation, and I got introduced to my first guide, whose name is Cheyenne. And I said, "How do I relate to Cheyenne then?" And she said, "Meditate on his name and he will come through." So that night I went home and I meditated on his name. I had learned a little bit about meditation at that point. And I went to sleep with his name emblazoned in front of my closed eyes. And I dreamt about him. And so he showed himself from, and this is the funny thing, okay, just to backtrack for a second, the woman I had gone to see, she said, his eyes are amazing. They're really, really sparkling. And in the dream, I really recognized him, because from here up, that's all I saw. And his face was amazing.
For those that are listening and can't see.
Yeah. And his eyes were amazing, and they were just sparkling, and they were just laughing, you know. So that was the first introduction to meeting a guide. And from there, I just found out about healing. My first training was in vortex healing, and I became certified, believe it or not, and initiated into the lineage, the Merlin lineage. So I'm actually officially a wizard of the Merlin lineage. And
I'm not jealous at all.
No, you'd love that, wouldn't you?
No.
And we were playing around with vortices. We were bringing the scent of pine into one side of the room, and the scent of mint into another side of the room. You know, it was just an amazing experience. So then I went on and did Reiki and Belvis Pata and lots of different things, and got very drawn through that into the mediumship then, because I started to experience with my clients. I started experiencing information coming through with that. So I decided I need to learn how. I'm really hot on ethics in the spiritual field, and I said I need to learn what's going on here. So I went off to the Institute of Spiritual and Psychic Studies, and I did a little bit of training with them, and I realized, oh, this is mediumship. Yeah. So, and the funny thing is, I arrived there, right, for it was a week long, the course, and we were split into 3 groups when we arrived, and the facilitator, they went on the intuition, this is Stanced at all. And they decided I was going into the intermediate group. And I said, no, I'm a beginner. I said, you're putting me into the wrong group. And he said, no, you're going into the intermediate group. So I was sitting around with all these like professional mediums, and I had never done it. And the information just came. I couldn't believe it. It was amazing. So that's what started.
Absolutely. That's a long
Yeah.
journey, absolutely. And what I would want to add in on is obviously your mediumship came through your healing, because mediumship is in essence healing.
Yes.
That is the very cornerstone of it, so to speak. Now, I do want to I would want to spend time asking you all about being a wizard, but
oh, don't. The shamanic stuff is better.
we'll leave that for another episode, because I'm so interested to hear how your healing has now evolved into the quantum light pod healing, which was a session that you done for me remotely and blew me away.
Oh, listen, it's still blowing me away. It was incredible. I forgot to add in that I've been on the shamanic path for many, many years as well. So that has really opened me up to the various different realms as well, that you wouldn't maybe ordinarily walk as a healer. So that has brought in a lot more depth into my experience too. So okay. So last May, I had a friend who contacted me who was terminally ill. And I hadn't heard from him for several years. And he asked me if I would do a healing session. And I said, yeah, of course, no problem. So I decided the day before the healing, I was going to meet him online and do it online. The day before, I decided I'm going to tune into him just to have a look at his energies, just to see what's going on. And as soon as I went in, I was met by this new guide and this funny looking machine. I said, what the hell is that? And what it looked like was just, well, the reason it's called a quantum light pod healing session is because it looks like a pod, and it's made of these different kind of streams of light, which I found out are fifth dimensional and above. So it's an actual healing technology. And he instructed me, this new guide that I was introduced to, he instructed me to place this friend of mine inside the pod. So I did that the next day and I experimented with it. And I told my friends, this has happened and can I experiment on you? And he said, yeah, no problem. So what happened was the pod was created from him. So it comes out through the individual. And my consciousness then goes inside. And what I was able to see was I was still able to do the healing work that I was had been doing previously, but it had been amped up by about 100 degrees. And I could see these, instead of going to one area and working on that area and then going to another area, I was able to actually put my hand through the pod. If I was standing outside, I could put my hand on the pod and streams of light and healing would go to various different organs that I had intended them to go to. And I had picked up intuitively and psychically beforehand where these things needed to go. Now I know in healing, we ordinarily allow the healing energy to come in and just do its work. But because of all of my other experience, I can usually detect where there is a dysfunction with the energy or where there is a situation going on, physically with somebody. So I can target that area. So that's how it started. And so the guides then, I had quite a profound experience in meditation around the same time, which is a bit out there. So I don't know if I'm going to go into it or not, but suffice to say, there were things removed from me energetically that had been hindering me, but I had placed there myself before I'd incarnated in order to really experience the human experience and not to go too fast too soon and burn out. So after that meditation, it just skyrocketed. And I started working on volunteers with the QLP healing, and I found that it was working in people's businesses. You could direct it to people's businesses, and it was removing blocks. The other thing that I noticed quite early on was most of my clients were receiving an activation in their throat chakra. And this is very much connected to the ascension process. So I became aware that this is really, really high-end technology, and it's all to do with our ascension from 3D to 5D, and or for those who don't know what that means, basically our expansion of consciousness as a species. And we're going through that at the moment. That's why we're seeing so much stuff coming up to be cleansed, and because the earth is kind of in a dark night of the soul transition at the moment, so it has to get worse before it gets better. So that was the initiation for me into QLP, and it has kind of taken on a life of its own, because
it has, and I've been watching. It really, really has.
It really has. Like, I mean, because it's all been really word of mouth, and people have told their friends, and then other people have said, I had this experience and that happened. And so a lot of people have come. So it's developing and developing and developing. And yeah, I'm very, very happy that I'm part of this, because I did do research to see, is anybody else doing this particular type of healing? And there doesn't seem to be anybody else doing it. So, and I did ask my guides, can I change the title? Because I asked them, what do you want me to call this? And they said, Quantum Light Pod Healing. And I said, pod sounds so naff. I said, do I really have to put pod in? And they said, yeah, it's important. So that's why it's called Quantum Light Pod Healing.
I like the name. I'm going to side with your guides on this one. I do. I like the name, you know, because it goes with with getting the session. You feel like you're in that pod. Well, at least I do, or I did anyway. You know, which was, you know, the name suits it. It really does. Obviously, you're the one doing it. I've got a session, so I'm going to side with your guides on this.
Yeah, cool. Okay, good enough.
Which is fantastic, and I know that people can catch you on social media. It's Deep Connections. We'll leave the links and everything in the description for people to contact you to book a session. And I'm just very, very aware of time, and I really want to be the one to talk about your healing course that's coming up, because I know that you probably have just announced it, and I want to let people know that you have started to take names for your energetics and energy work.
Yes, energetics and energy healing.
So I do watch. I'm just a bit dyslexic and get a few things wrong. So what tell me about this course. Is, you know, I'm a spiritual mentor myself. I'm so fascinated in what you're doing. Tell us everything.
Okay.
Not everything.
Okay.
Things to yourself.
Well, you know yourself, Sean, you know when you get a nudge from your team and you ignore it, and then you get another nudge and you ignore it, and then it goes on for ages, and then you get a slap in the back of the head, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna act on this. So that happened, but also it was coming through my own desire. It was like a compulsion, an urge, a necessary urge to do this. So I felt it's right. You know, I feel that because of the time that we're in and the time that we're going into, it's really necessary for people to understand themselves at a deeper level. We have the psychological level, we have the physical level, but we can repair and renew ourselves often quite easily at the energetic level. So this course is going to teach people about the energy system, about well, it's twofold. There's the energy system, and then there's the healing itself. So it's going to teach people about the energy system, the chakras, the aura, all of that good stuff, how to recognize dysfunction in it, and how that manifests in your life. So, for example, you know, if somebody is very anxious all the time and very fearful all the time, always wringing their hands, that's showing me immediately before I've even met them, okay, issues with that root chakra, and it's not strong. And as soon as I start working with them, I can usually see it's diminished. It's quite diminished, you know, so then I can give them exercises to do to strengthen it. And it's wonderful, you know, because I've just finished working with somebody who had a series of 4 sessions, and the difference in her from the first session to the fourth session was incredible.
Yeah.
There was so much, I could see that there was an auric tear around the base of her spine. And I asked her afterwards, when I was giving her feedback, I said, I really, there was a lot of energy taken into your lower spine and your pelvic girdle. And there was also a wound down in the aura, but it was corresponding with the root chakra. And she's in this field as well, so she knew the language I was using. I would explain it differently to somebody who didn't. And she said, oh my God, because I said to her, are you suffering with this? And she said, oh my God, yeah, I've been having really bad back pain for X amount of time. And I've been for appointments, I've been to the doctor, I've been to the hospital, getting no relief. So when I started giving her the exercises to use, in her last session, she looked amazing. And I said, you look so different. And I said, how's the back pain? And she says, oh, sure, it's not bothering me. And I was like, so she had been doing the exercises combined with the healing. Because people think like everything gets fixed in one session. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it takes. It takes it 20 years to create an illness. It doesn't always kind of get healed overnight. You've got to put the work in. So this course is going to teach people how to do it for themselves. And it's going to then go on. Once I've taught them the fundamentals of the energy system, I'm going to then teach them how to bring that really great energy in, the healing energy in, and channel it out to other people. And I'm going to teach them how to do that by laying on of hands, so physically one-to-one, and remotely, step by step.
Fantastic.
So they can see, the responses by other people as well, and they can start using this on their kids, or they can bring it. They can, if they're already a professional practitioner, they can bring it into their practice and strengthen it. But also, if you are a practitioner and a professional healer, you really need to know about the energy system, because you're working with, this is powerful stuff. This work is very powerful, and what you're using is very powerful. So know the tools you're using. So I'm going to teach them how to recognize various different things, and then resolve them.
Amazing.
Resolve them.
Yeah. And how long is the course?
It's 3 months. It's going to be 3 months. Yeah. And it's going to.
Great. Online, so people can learn from anywhere.
Yes. So it's going to be, there's going to be a video sent out, emailed each week to each participant. And that's a lesson in itself. And then every 2 weeks on a Thursday at 7:30, there's going to be a live Zoom lesson. So at that point, then I'll obviously be teaching material based on what has been sent out prior to that. But it's also a chance to ask any questions. And particularly if you're at the stage with the healing where you're now practicing on volunteers, so you're learning as a student. So you can come back with those questions. I'm also going to add in a bonus masterclass on connecting with your spirit guides, because somebody asked for that, so I've added that in, and a 20-minute private phone call for anybody who doesn't want to discuss anything in the training, doesn't want to discuss it in class. So that's going to be part of it as well.
Sounds fantastic. So for those that have no experience in healing, this is perfect for them then.
Yes, yeah.
So for someone that is maybe brand new or a little bit experienced, is there any prerequisites, or it's just open to people that want to learn?
It's open to anybody who wants to learn, and there's material involved that somebody who is experienced, they're going to be coming with different questions than somebody who's less experienced, obviously. But I can facilitate both levels. So it won't be going too in depth with the information for the beginners, but it'll be going in depth enough for the more advanced students who've been on the path a bit longer. And they may have been on a different spiritual path, and now they want to learn healing. So this would be perfect. Be really, really perfect. So I'm really excited about it. Really excited.
It sounds fantastic. And I've been teaching mediumship for years, and I always do advise my students is to learn some sort of healing. because it heightens that vibration that you're already holding. So, if you're coming from it from a mediumship point of view, it'll help with your mediumship. Not necessarily that's what you're training people to do, but because you're in that energy in a different way and you're giving more to other people. So, there's that whole give and take and that of it coming around. So for anyone that, wants to develop spiritually, in any aspect, I always recommend learning some form of healing. So you can contact Aoibhinn if you want to get signed up on her course. I'm going to assume that it is going to be limited. You're not going to be able to take just everybody that comes along.
No,
So,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Because I've already had, I had two people contact me about a month ago saying, "Have you got that course? I want to pay for it." And I said, "I haven't even worked out the price yet. Hang on." So as soon as I put a little bit of an advert out saying it's coming soon, they were
Yeah.
straight on saying, "Okay, what's the deposit? How much when can I pay? Can I pay by PayPal?"
Good.
So yeah.
Good, good, good. So people, again, like I'll have your contact details for people to reach out about the course. So it sounds like you have a lot on your plate. It seems like you're going to be, busy with, your healing clients, your healing teaching. Is there anything else that's going on in the world of Aoibhinn that I want to know that you must tell me, Aoibhinn?
Absolutely, Shan.
You heard it here first, guys.
Okay, so not only have I decided to launch the course, and it's actually going to be the second week of July. It was originally going to be June, but it's going to be July now. But I've decided to launch my new massage treatment room at the same time. Woohoo!
Ooh.
So that is going to be launched the beginning of July, and that is going to be on Bloomfield Avenue in East
Mm.
Belfast.
Only.
So it's going to be in a property called the Wellness and Healing Hub.
Ah.
So my treatment room is going to be in there, and it's going to be a little piece of fabulousness. So I'm going to be doing the hands-on healing there, and I will also be doing various different types of massage. So if you've been, having remote healings with me over Zoom and you're in the area, then come along, book in, and I'll give you a hands-on healing session as well, or a fabulous massage.
Fantastic. Well, I am super, super excited for what I've yet to see. Like I said, I'm someone that I do watch quietly on the sidelines. So it's been great chatting to you today and getting into a little bit more detail about everything that you've got going. And remember, guys, you've heard it here first. July, isn't it? The
Yes.
healing rooms. July. Look out
Mm-hmm.
for the healing course. Aoibhinn's Facebook page is Deep Connections. Have you got that website sorted yet?
Oh, stop with the website, will
We'll
you?
leave that one. You can let me know when they add those details in. But
Okay.
Aoibhinn, thank you so so much for coming along. It has been fascinating. Hopefully, I can have you in another wee while to talk more about being a wizard, or I mean a shaman. Sorry. Hopefully we
How
can.
about both?
Yeah, but we'll touch base again, and hopefully get things from like a shamanic perspective. But thank you so much for coming today.
Oh, it's been an absolute delight. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you very, very much for inviting me.
What an absolutely fascinating person. That's that's just so fascinating to me, all the work that she does. And guys, there is a lot more that is out there that is readily available than just, mediumship or a psychic reading or a clairvoyant reading, whatever you want to call it. There is so much that falls under the metaphysical umbrella. And always do reach out to these people and see what there is and what's available and what can, potentially help you better your own life. So fascinating. So you can get Aoibhinn's contact information in the description of the podcast. And yeah, what a great first episode, I think. So, for those of you that are interested in reaching out to work with me, you can go to psychicinthecity.co.uk where you'll find information on my work, on what I do. You can go to the mentoring section for information on my accredited mediumship mentoring program or to learn the tarot with my accredited tarot training course. I've loads of meditation, self hypnosis tracks, self led courses, and also my best selling book, Tarot for Modern Times is available on Amazon. But do like and subscribe, and thank you so much for joining in to the first episode of the Psychic in the City podcast. And I'll see you all next week. Bye bye.